The galaxy had known peace for 3,000 years. The Galactic Council ruled over 200 species with careful diplomacy and ancient laws. War was forbidden. Conflict was settled through trade agreements and political pressure. No species dared to break these rules because the punishment was total isolation from galactic trade routes. Without trade, any civilization would collapse within decades. But the Empire did not care about rules anymore. They came from the outer rim of the galaxy, a reptilian species with cold blood and even colder hearts. For centuries, they had watched the peaceful species of the inner systems grow fat and lazy. They saw weakness everywhere they looked. The High Command made a decision that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. They would conquer everything. Their first target was They were a gentle species, known throughout the galaxy for their beautiful music and advanced medical technology. They had no military. They had no weapons. They had trusted in the protection of galactic law for over 1,000 years. The fleet arrived without warning. 50 warships appeared in space, their weapons charged and ready. They sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, begging for help. But help takes time to organize. Politics moves slowly. By the time the Council finished their emergency session, there was burning. 3 billion died in the first wave of attacks. The survivors were captured and sold into slavery across the outer rim. The Empire broadcast their victory across every communication channel in the galaxy. Their message was simple and terrifying: submit or be destroyed. The Galactic Council was paralyzed with fear. Most species had abandoned military technology generations ago. Their ships were designed for trade and exploration, not warfare. The few species that maintained defensive fleets were too small and too weak to challenge the Armada. Ambassador of the Republic stood before the council chamber. His 4 eyes scanned the frightened faces of his fellow diplomats. "There must be something we can do," he said, his voice trembling. "There must be someone who can stop them." An old from the archives raised his hand slowly. His name was, and he had served the council for over 200 years. His memory contained knowledge that most species had forgotten long ago. "There is one possibility," said quietly, "but I am afraid to speak of it." The chamber fell silent. Every diplomat leaned forward to hear his words. "Do you remember why the Galactic Council was formed 3,000 years ago?" asked. "Do you remember the great fear that united all species under one government?" Most of the diplomats shook their heads. 3,000 years was a long time. History became legend, and legend became myth. "We formed the council because we were afraid," continued. "We were afraid of a species so dangerous, so violent, so unpredictable that the entire galaxy came together just to keep them contained. We built a barrier around their home system. We erased all records of their location. We hoped that they would never find their way out into the galaxy." "Who are they?" Ambassador whispered. Closed his eyes. "They call themselves humans." A wave of confusion passed through the chamber. Most species had never heard that name before. The records had been destroyed too thoroughly. "Humans are a young species," explained. "They evolved on a death world called Earth. Their planet is covered in poison, radiation, extreme temperatures, and predators. Every creature on their world, including themselves, evolved to kill. They survived by becoming the most efficient killers their planet had ever produced." The diplomats listened in horrified silence. When humans first achieved space travel, they encountered the consortium. They tried to enslave them as they had enslaved dozens of other young species. The war lasted only 6 years. At the end of those 6 years, they no longer existed. Every planet, every colony, every ship, gone, completely erased from existence. "That is impossible," one diplomat protested. "They were powerful. They controlled 40 star systems." "The humans did not stop there," said. "They kept expanding. They kept fighting. Any species that threatened them was destroyed. Any species that attacked them was hunted to extinction. The Galactic Council was formed specifically to create a unified front against human expansion. We agreed to contain them, to cut them off from the rest of the galaxy, rather than risk total war. "And you think these humans could help us now?" Ambassador asked. "Help us?" Laughed bitterly. "No, I think they might destroy the Empire, but I also think they might destroy everything else in the process. The humans do not have allies. They have enemies, and they have species they have not met yet. Those are the only two categories in their worldview." The Council debated for 7 days while the Empire conquered 3 more systems. More billions died. More worlds burned. Finally, in desperation, they made a decision that would change galactic history forever. They sent a message beyond the barrier. The message was simple. It contained coordinates, enemy fleet positions, and a single sentence: "We request military assistance against an aggressive hostile force." For 3 weeks there was no response. They continued their advance. The Council began to lose hope. Perhaps the humans had destroyed themselves. Perhaps they were too primitive to receive the message. Perhaps they simply did not care. Then, on the 22nd day, every communication device in the galaxy received the same transmission. It came from human space, from beyond the ancient barrier that had contained them for 3,000 years. The message said, "Stand by. Humanity's warship is en route. Nothing will survive." Not warships, warship singular. The High Command laughed when they intercepted this message. One ship against their armada of 200 vessels. These humans were clearly insane. They prepared an ambush at the edge of their conquered territory, eager to add human technology to their collection. The human warship emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly where the fleet was waiting. Every sensor in the galaxy turned toward that location to watch what would happen next. The ship was massive. It was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was larger than space stations. It was larger than small moons. Its hull was black and covered in weapons that no species could identify. Its name was written across its side in human letters that the universal translator converted for all viewers. The ship was called "Remember Everything." The commander ordered all ships to fire immediately. 200 warships unleashed their full arsenals at the human vessel. The barrage lasted for 6 full minutes. When the fire stopped, the human ship was completely undamaged. Then the human ship fired back. A single weapon activated on the front of the vessel. The beam that emerged was not like anything the galaxy had ever recorded. It did not burn, it did not explode, it simply erased matter from existence. The beam swept across the fleet like a finger drawing a line through dust. Ships simply ceased to exist. No debris, no escape pods, no survivors. In less than 30 seconds, the entire ambush fleet was gone. The human ship did not stop. It turned toward space and accelerated. Every planet that had served the war effort received the same treatment. Military installations vanished. Weapons factories disappeared. Supply depots were erased. They tried to surrender. They broadcast their submission on every channel. They offered anything the humans wanted. The human ship did not slow down. It traveled to the and stopped in orbit. For 6 hours, nothing happened. The entire galaxy watched and waited. Then a message was transmitted from the ship to every being in the system. "You enslaved the survivors. You sold them across the outer rim. We have rescued 47 million of them. The remaining deaths are your responsibility. You will pay for every life you took. You will pay for every world you burned. This is human justice." The weapon fired one final time. It was gone. 7 billion died in an instant. Their empire collapsed overnight. The survivors scattered across the galaxy as refugees, never to threaten anyone again. The human ship returned to the Galactic Council space station. It did not dock. It simply stopped nearby and sent a representative in a smaller shuttle. The representative was a human female named Admiral. She was small by galactic standards, but something in her eyes made even the largest species step back. "Your debt is paid," Admiral said to the council. "You contained us for 3,000 years. We have decided that we are not angry about that. We understand why you were afraid. But now you have seen what we can do. Now you understand why fear was the correct response." Ambassador found his voice. "What happens now? Will you join the Galactic Council? Will you participate in our government?" Admiral smiled. It was not a warm smile. "No, we will return to our space. We will continue our own development, but we will leave you with this warning. You called us because you were desperate. You thought you had no other choice. Remember that feeling. Remember how it felt to be helpless. Remember how it felt to watch your people die while your government debated. And remember that the next time you call us, we might decide that you are the problem." She walked back to her shuttle without waiting for a response. The human warship, Remember Everything, departed Council space and returned beyond the ancient barrier. But this time, the barrier was not restored. The humans had made their position clear. They were watching now. They were always watching. The Galactic Council emerged from this crisis transformed. Within 50 years, every species had developed defensive capabilities. Wars became smaller and less destructive because everyone remembered what happened when conflicts got out of control. The humans never returned, but their shadow hung over every diplomatic negotiation for centuries. And somewhere, in the records of the Council archives, a new entry was added to the file on human civilization. It contained only one recommendation for any species that might consider threatening the galaxy again. "Do not summon the humans unless you are prepared for the answer. They will solve your problem. They will solve it permanently. And they will make certain you understand the cost of asking." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Peace returned, stronger than before. But it was not the peace of trust and cooperation. It was the peace of fear. Everyone remembered the single ship that had ended an empire in hours. Everyone remembered the message that had frozen the blood of 200 species. "Stand by. Humanity's warship is en route. Nothing will survive." And nothing had.